All right, we're back, and we are COMP397 in the winter 2018 semester, week 7, part 2 of our broadcast. I was going to do some other optimizations, but now we're going to add bullets. But before we get there to adding bullets, I want to fix my collision a little bit with my explosion. So we're going to add bullets, but we're going to do some explosion stuff, adjustments first. So one thing I don't have with my explosion is I don't have a cool sound, but I gave you guys the explosion.mp3 sound. So if you look at inside our assets, inside we have this explosion.mp3 sound right here. And I want to add that into my my preloader. So my manifest, I want to add in an explosion sound. Let's do that. Again, I'm just demonstrating here today that you can do OGG files, WAV files, and MP3 files. So this will be my explosion.mp3. So my explosion.mp3, that will make the explosion sound that I want. And we'll call this explosion. It's just my explosion sound. So I want to take away the thunder sound. I don't want to have the thunder sound anymore, right? Because the thunder sound doesn't make any sense. So I want to get rid of that. I won't load that anymore, right? And what I'm going to do is inside of my collision collision, I'm going to change it so that it doesn't play the thunder sound, but rather it plays the explosion sound. That makes sense. So now if you notice, I'm updating or replacing my placeholder assets. I've had yay, and then I'm changing those to more realistic things, right? Things that look a little better or sound a little better. Okay, let's change this. Let's check this out and see if this works. How does it work? So again, going back to my male pilot game, right? More realistic, as opposed to my thunder sound, right? It feels a lot harsher when you explode now. It doesn't sound like the thunder sound, right? There we go. See if I can make it to the bonus. No. George says it was too hard. George is right. One more time. Come on. No, they're big for a reason. No. No, I want the cloud to be big. I want it's a treacherous game. One thing also we want to do before we add in our bullets, so we're going to talk bullets, is Francis asked, or I don't know if it's Francis or Alex, you were asking for an invulnerability state. So when you get hit, this is what's going to help, George. You want the plane to become invulnerable for a few seconds, or for a few moments, not even a second, all right? So how do you do this? Well, we can use Texture Packer for this. Yeah. Sorry? I can, but I want the plane to flash for a few moments, right? So I can do this in that we have our plane object, right? There's our plane. But I can make an object like this, and this is the trick, that's completely empty. Right? So let's do that. So it's 65. Notice that plane is, in this particular case, is 65 by 65. Let's add this in. So I'm going to go back into my plane object. These are all my objects here that in my scene right now. And I'm going to click on one of the planes, like, for example, this plane PNG, right? And this plane PNG, right, is this. It's roughly, like I said, 65 by 65, what this thing is, right? Well, what I want to do is just delete it. So get rid of this thing altogether, right? And what I want to do, actually, let's put this back. I want this one. So this has no propellers running whatsoever, right? The propeller won't run. It will just flash, okay? And I want the plane maybe to flash in a different color, right? So I want to color this plane so it kind of looks like it's red or yellow or something else, right? Or maybe semi-transparent. What do you think? So maybe make this plane a little bit transparent. So move in. So right now the plane is completely visible, right? Let's change the transparency. And I don't know if I can access this right now. I don't know where my screens are, but I want to change the transparency value. So I want to edit the value of my plane. So I want to modify the, sorry? No. But you'll see what I'm going to do in a second. I'm going to save this as something else, right? So again, what I want to do is I want to modify the property of my plane, right? So this property of plane, I have a couple things I can do. I have my my plane itself. I just want to see if I can get it from here, because I can't see in this view. Unfortunately, I can't see my. I'm just going to modify. I'm going to save this because I can't seem to see my the other part of my screen, because unfortunately Fireworks. See if it's hidden somewhere. I'm just going to take the dock away for a second. Just make it automatically hide. Yeah, I still don't see it. So there's this other part to this that's hidden. I don't know if you see it, but it basically gives you your properties for the plane. And unfortunately for now, I can't see it. But let's see if I can see that bring all to front. And do I see that? That's my dock. It's not. I don't care about this. Sorry, guys. Yeah, no. There's a properties. There's a properties. This window right here. This is what I wanted. So this properties window right here is what I wanted, and this properties shows me my opacity for my plane, right? So notice right here, what I have is I have filters for my plane itself. So if I change my opacity to like 50%, notice my plane will look like this. So opaque. So it'll flash half opaque, so semi-transparent. And then when I go back, it'll go back to fully opaque, right? So I'm not going to do it as an effect. I'm going to do it as part of my plane. And I'm going to say this is file, save as. And this will be like transparent plane. And actually, it'll be plane flash 1, plane flash 1, right? And then I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right place, right? Inside assets, inside images. So plane flash 1. It says something different, right? Save. And then I'm going to do plane flash 2. Here's plane flash 2, right? I know this sounds silly, but I'm telling you, this works great. File, save as, right? Plane flash 2. So one that's completely nothing. There's nothing on the scene whatsoever. Now if I go back to my stuff, I have plane flash 1 and plane flash 2, right? And if I look at texture packer, here's my texture packer. Then what I can do is I can take plane flash 1 and plane flash 2 and add them in. And if you notice, what plane flash 2 does is it reserves the space that's empty. Okay? So what I want to do is cycle between 0 and 1, 0 and 1. And if I want to see this, so I see both these two objects, and I want to check out my animation preview, it's looking like this so far. That's what it's going to look like. But maybe this is too fast, so I can slow this down even more. Like this, right? 5 frames per second. Does that look good? So bump, 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 like a few of these. And then I'm not invulnerable anymore, right? Would this be okay, Alex? Or should I go lower than this? Slower? Like how fast? I can even go slower. I can go like, 2 frames per second. And then it comes back. So like 1, 2, 3, and then I'm back. I can do that. What do you think about that? 1, 2, 3. So I have like 3 seconds or 2 seconds. 1, 2. Huh? This speed or 5 frames per second? 5 frames per second is this. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Like one of those. 1, 2, 3, like that. So I'm only going to do 3. I'm going to wait for 3. Okay? So that's my new animation. Now, just like before, I'm not modifying all of this. I'm not modifying the plane, but I am changing my restart button, my start position, because they're going to be pushed down. Because what's happening is they're going to be moving over. Nothing's happening up here, but all of this is changing down here. Okay? So plane flash 1 and plane flash 2. Okay, so I'm going to publish my sprite sheet. There it goes. I'm going to go back into my object. Here it is. And what I want to do is include this. All right, so here's plane flash 1 and 2. I want to make plane flash 1 and 2 frames 22 and 23. So 22, 23, watch. 22, 23, and then 22, 23 again. That makes sense, what I'm doing, right? And remember we said 5 frames per second. If that's fast enough, we don't know. So 5, to figure this out, if I said something like, I put my calculator together and I said 5 divided by 60, right? So 5 frames out of 60 is 0.08, as a speed. So I'm going to kind of add my speed in here. The speed is equal to 0.808, something like that, 0.08. That's my speed of my plane flash. It can't be plane flash 1, it's got to be plane flash, right? And I care about these 3 things right here. This is the only thing that's changed, plus my frames. So I'm going to go to down here, into my game, and then up here I'm going to change my my last part, which is this part right here. So I've added plane flash, and my restart button got pushed down. I'm also going to change my frames, because all this has to change. And just because I don't know exactly where it is, I'm not going to make a mistake. I want to grab it all. Cool. But pretty simple. Like the way it works is like, I mean, again, this is my way of doing it. There's definitely other ways to do this. I find this is the easiest way when I've always done it with Create.js. I can just do it like this. Okay, so there's my plane flash already in place. Now I need, so I've added my asset. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say something like, let's close all these up. And I'm going to go to here, and you can see these are all the things I added. So I say added plane flash effect, plane flash asset, sorry. Not the effect yet. We have to do that. Okay, and push. So now my plane flash asset is in place. And now what I want to do is I want to add my class. I need another class for this. So I want to add my new class. It's really loud outside, eh? New file called planeflash.ts. There's another object altogether. And there's a reason for this. So if I go to, again, module objects, and then export class plain flash, right, which extends an objects.game object. And again, inside here, I'm going to have private instance variables. I'm going to have public properties. I'm going to have constructors. I'm going to have private methods. And I'm going to have public methods. And inside my constructor, let's do the constructor. So it's going to be constructor now. And the constructor is going to go to my super constructor and pass in plain flash. And to check this, to make sure that's correct, because I forgot if it's what I put in there, I'm going to go to my core game.ts and make sure it says plain flash. It's got to be exactly the same. All right? Otherwise, it will never work. That's the first part. And then what I want to do is I want to grab the stuff on my game object. So I definitely want to have my start, my update for sure, those 2 methods. I don't know if there's going to be anything else right now. But if I go to my plain flash, I can just put those in public, right? Start and update. And I've created my class. I need to add this class to my index.html. And I got to think now, okay, so where does it go? So does my plane need to know about plain flash? No, it's just going to flash my plane. But my plain flash needs to know about my plane potentially, because it's going to position itself where the plane is. So chances are it's going to be probably somewhere underneath plane and above coin. Somewhere in here. It's not really necessary eventually, but it's going to be plain flash.js. I'm going to go into my references. I'm going to put plain flash.js in there as well, so some place down in here. Plain flash. .ts. There we go. So now I have access to it, right? And I want to test it in my scene. So if I go to my play scene, how will this work? So what I want to do is I want to create this object. So my plane flash will appear when I collide. So if my collision is correct, so if I collide with an object, my plane flash will appear, and then it'll disappear. Okay? I know that if I collide with my clouds, that it's going to create this thing. So now I'm going to change my collision manager a little bit differently. So inside of this is the first public object that I'm going to make in my play scene. So my play scene, I'm going to make a new public object, right? Called plane flash. So plane flash, which is going to be of type objects dot plane flash. And then what I'm going to do is in my start method, right? I got to add my plane flash just above my plane. So this dot plane flash is equal to a new objects dot plane flash. And why am I doing this? I'm pre-allocating it. I'm pre-making my plane flash scene, my object. And then what I want to do is I want to move my my object around when I need to, but I'm going to make it invisible at the beginning completely, right? So I'm going to say by default my plane flash object here, right, from a kind of initialization perspective, this dot plane flash dot alpha is equal to 0. So my alpha transparency for my plane flash is going to make it invisible no matter what I do. Okay. And then I'm going to add it to the scene down in here like I normally do. I'm going to do my plane flash update. So this dot plane flash dot updates. This one. And I'm also going to add it to the scene in main. So main, above my plane, I'm going to add it to the scene. So add the plane flash effect. Vector is what it really is, to the scene. So this dot add child, and then this dot plane flash. So it's there, but it's invisible. And it's at the top corner of my screen, top left corner right now, by default. Okay. But what I want to do is every frame, I want to move my plane flash around. So wherever my plane is, my plane flash will follow. So I'm going to say something like this. Well, I'm going to update. I don't know what I'm going to put in my update right now, my update function. Right now it's empty. But I definitely want to say that this dot plane flash dot x is equal to this dot underscore plane dot x, and this dot plane flash dot y is equal to this dot underscore plane dot y. Why is that? Because my plane flash will move around. My plane flash will move around. Okay, cool. So I've got my plane flash moving around, but I can't see it. And to check this out, to see if I didn't break anything, I should be able to go back to my scene and play. And I shouldn't see any difference. George, I'm going to get like my 1,000 points, man. That's it. Oh, man. Wait. It's just you have to not be greedy. That's all. And, oh, come on. That's not going to happen this time. I can tell you right now. The randomness is just against me. Oh. Come on. Yes. I got 1,100 points, and I got 2 lives. Maybe I can get another 1,000 points while I do this. It's not going to happen, guys. 1,000 points. Another 1,000 points is going to be like super hard to get in this particular version of the game. Oh, okay, there we go. So at least it worked, and there's no side effects. I don't see my plane flash. Just an extra object that follows my plane around. Can't see it though. So how will it? Well, how should it work? Well, when I collide, so I'm going to go back to my collision. So if I go to my managers, and if I go to my collision manager, so I have an explosion, and what I want to do is I want to turn on my plane flash, right? And I want to turn off my plane. I want to make my plane invisible, and I want to turn on my plane flash. Okay, but this is the challenge. How do I get my plane to be visible again? Right? It's kind of tough, right? It's kind of tough because I need to basically say, hey, my plane flash is on. When it's done, I want to trigger something that tells me that I should turn on my plane again, right? So remember what I said, plane is an object that, you know, I've collided with. So it's easy for me to turn it on. So I can do something like this. I can say that my managers, right? I can say that when I collide, sure, I collide, have an explosion. I can say that my object one dot alpha is equal to 0. I can turn off my plane. Yay, right? And then I can say that my managers dot game and dot current scene object dot plane flash, right? So current scene object. But the thing is, current scene object right now, I have to cast it. I have to cast my current scene object as objects.play. Oh, sorry, scenes.play. So this is the difficulty. I'm trying to show you how to do this without doing any extra object. So scenes.play scene. I can cast my managers.object like this. So this is my manager's object I'm casting. This is casting. Managers.game.currency object. And I can say that I want my plane object. That's what I want, but I don't have access to it here. I just can't, right? I could also make a reference to it and call it that it is of type. So I can say something like, well, let's, you know, play scene. That's the other way of doing it. Let play scene is which is of type scenes. This is the way to do it too. Dot play scene. I'm going to get a reference to it by getting managers dot game dot current scene. Right? Whatever but this is assuming. I'm assuming that my play scene is the current scene, which is a problem, right? And of course, what I'd want to do is I want to cast it as a play scene. So object scenes play scene. But this is unfortunately hacky. It's very hacky, right? It's like saying I want to cast my object as this type, and it's not going to work. So I have to get a reference to my scene. I need to get access to my plane flash, and I can't do it in here. Okay. Well, I can get it. I can say I can get my plane flash, right? And the other way I can do it is I can set my plane flash object in my scene as a global. That's another workaround. I can get a plane flash global object, and I can say, hey, turn this on, and then turn it off. And that might be a way to save my plane, to get access to my plane. So instead of making it public, I can make it private, but I can make two globals. My plane, which is always going to continue from one scene to the other. And that might be a good thing, because then what I can do is I can set my health of my plane when I go from one scene to the other. If I have only 4 lives, I still only have 4 lives. Or whatever. If I have some kind of other things on my plane, my position of my plane will transfer over. A bunch of other stuff too. So that's one way of taking care of it. So I could do something like that. I have access to my plane here. Object 1 is my plane. That's what it is, right? But I don't have access to my plane flash. The other thing I could do is I could create a reference to my plane flash as a special feature of plane. So I could say that plane, I want to instantiate an object called plane flash. That's part of my game scene, right? And I have access to it as a reference in plane. I could do that way too. So in other words, I modify my plane object. Here's my plane object. I could modify it, and instead of instantiating plain flash there, I can instantiate plain flash here and put it as part of the scene. That's the other object, the other way to do it. And then when my plane object updates, it'll signal my plane to find its, instantiate itself or make itself visible again. And that's a different way of doing things. It might be the best way to do things, actually. So let's do it that way. I know it sounds convoluted, but there's a million ways to do the same thing. Well, there's hundreds of ways to do the same thing for sure, I would say. And it's just finding the best way. So instead of doing it this way, where we add our plain flash as a public object in the scene, we won't do it this way. We'll make it part of the scene. But what we'll do is instead make it part of the plane. Let's see if this is something that we can do. And again, I'm diverging from what I'm supposed to do. It's supposed to be bullets. So excuse me when I do this. And yeah. Now this is something else. Notice that this is an effector, and as soon as I update my plane, I add my thing anyway. Okay, so let's try that out instead. So I'm going to go to objects. I'm going to go to plane. Here's my plane object. And inside my plane, as soon as I instantiate my plane, I'm going to make a private variable called plane flash. So I'm going to say call this underscore plane flash, which I'm going to make private, which is of type objects.planeFlash. Thank God I put it in this way. I put it in the hierarchy properly. I didn't know I was going to do this. So when I go to start, I'm going to instantiate a new object of this. So I'll say this dot underscore plane flash is equal to a new objects dot plane flash. So there it is. And I'm going to set the object again like we did before by default. My plane flash object is going to be, the alpha value is going to be 0 by default. So I don't see my plane flash. And what I also want to do in start is create an event listener here, where I say something like this dot underscore plane flash dot on animation end. When the animation is over, what I want to do here is I want to call an event listener. I'm going to say that let's make a private methods. We'll say something like private underscore, we'll call the same thing as we did last time, animation ended. Right? And this dot underscore animation ended dot bind this. I can type false properly. There we go. So that's what this does. So it kind of hits this. And when the animation ends, then when I want to say that this dot alpha, right, is equal to 1. So I'm turning on this plane. That's what it's going to be doing. So this part does. So first, I create my plane flash on animation end. This will turn it on, right? When I actually play my, I'm going to turn this thing on for the first time. Now, you got to figure that this thing here, this animation, I've got to go to and play this animation. Like I haven't done that before, right? And we'll talk about this in a second. So I have an event listener, and every time I go to, I turn, when I'm done, I turn this thing back on. That's what this thing is going to do. All right, cool. Now, I'm not going to do this now, but when I get hit, when I take a hit, when the plane takes a hit itself, what I wanted to do is, because this thing is added, I want to add this thing to the scene on start. So here, I want to, and you know what? I've already thought about this will have a problem. So this dot, actually we'll say managers dot game dot current scene dot not current scene objects dot add child, and then this dot underscore plane flash. And I also want every frame on update, right? On update, when I move my plane, right? I want to also move my plane flash. So on the bottom of this thing here, I'm going to say that this dot underscore plane flash dot x is equal to this dot x. This dot underscore plane flash dot y is equal to this dot y. So I'm going to move my plane around here in my game, in my plane. My plane flash move around. My plane flash is invisible, but now I just figured out that I need to make this visible. I need to make this plane flash visible, right? And in order for me to do that, I have to make this public. Sorry. So otherwise, there's no way to control that unless I make some kind of set function to make it visible. Okay, so plane flash, undo. This is where I shouldn't do this kind of stuff. I'm going to rename my symbol to plane flash. That would change everything in here. Okay, cool. So basically what I've done is I've added the plane flash to the scene. I have access to it up here, right? I have access to it up there. I wait till the animation finishes playing, and I'm good to go. I can kind of go to and play that stuff, okay? So my update, I move, I check bounds. I don't reset my plane or anything like that yet. And then when I move, I also move around my plane flash. Okay, cool. Well, how does my collision manager work now? So let's go back to my manager's collision. So collision manager, again, what I do is I've set my alpha to 0. My alpha goes to 0. And what I want to do is I want to set my plane flash, right? I want to set my plane flash to play, to on, right? Well, my plane flash would have stopped playing already and made my alpha 1, right? That's what I want to do. So unfortunately, I don't have access to that. I can't say object1.alpha. Object1.planeFlash, because object1 doesn't exist. So like I said, one way to do this is to carry forward in the game manager, create my plane, because my plane is my player, right? So I could do something like this. I could say, maybe I'll need this later anyway, where I move scenes. I haven't done that yet. Where I want my plane to be of type objects.plane, right? And then what I can do is in my scene, in my game scene, so I'll go back to my scenes.play. In my scenes.play at the top, when I instantiate my plane, so when I create my object, so when I do one of these, I also at the bottom say something like managers.game.plane is equal to this.plane. So I get a reference to it. And now that I've got that, I got a reference to it, I can use it in my collision class. Again, you've got to think about this is kind of hacky, right? Because what I'm saying is object1.alpha is equal to 0, and then what I'm doing, I'm saying something like managers.game.plane.planeFlash alpha is equal to 1. I turn my plane flash on, right? And then what I want to do is, as soon as I turn my plane flash on, I want to go to and play. So managers.game.plane.planeFlash.go to and play. And I want to go to and play plane flash, right? Okay. One thing I need to also do is in my plane method, my plane method, when I do this, when my animation is over and my this dot alpha is 1, I want to say that this dot underscore, or sorry, this dot plane flash alpha is going to be 0. So I want to turn that back off. So plane flash is off, the alpha is 1. And in my collision manager, sorry, I know there's a lot of change. In my collision manager, what I want to do is I want to check to see that that my alpha is 1 before I collide. So I'm not going to make another explosion sound if my alpha is not 1. So if my plane goes over the cloud and my alpha is 0, forget it. Just like I did up here, where I check to see that my object 1 dot alpha is not equal to 0. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to say that if object 1 dot alpha is not equal to 0, then I can do this stuff. Otherwise, don't. Because then my plane is invisible and only my plane flash is invisible or visible, and then I don't really care. Whew. Like I said, looked easy, but sometimes. And I don't even know why I'm having these problems. Let's see if this actually works. So play. Oh man. Wait. Look, I can collide with my objects. So my plane is there, but invisible, right? Yeah, that's easy. That's way easy. But that's not what I want. Where's my plane flash, right? My plane flash is not playing. So let's just not do this for a second and see what happens when I make my plane flash alpha 1, right? When I'm going to make my plane flash alpha 1. I may have to modify my plane class itself. So I instantiate my plane flash. I should have, with my plane, 10 objects now on the scene. So I can test this by going to my scene, my play scene. Let's go to my play scene. And inside my update method, I'll update the number of objects again. So I'll console.log this time game objects. Damn, I'm timing out. Plus in my scene. So I can say that the this dot num children. I don't know how it switched over there. So let's see how I have it. So I'm going to go here, and when I play, and if I go to inspect, I should have 10 objects in my scene, not 9. Okay, let's refresh. Oh yeah, I'm really taxing my system now. 9. So that's not good. So I don't have my other object. Look, we didn't get added to the scene. Okay, so that's bad. So again, this is some troubleshooting, right? So let's go back to this. Did I add child? I don't think I did. So going back to my, where am I? My plane. My plane. Plane.ts. Here's my plane.ts. Add child this.plane flash. Okay. Add child my managers on start. Managers.game.current scene.add child. So I'm adding this one and this one. Plane flash. Okay, let's make it, for now, let's make plane flash alpha 1. Let's see what happens. All right, plane flash alpha 1. And we'll make this plane flash alpha 1 here for just for now, just to see I can see the bloody thing. It's supposed to be there, right? So where is it? And objects. Where is it? Why is it going invisible? So go back to, so I'm adding my plane, and then I'm adding this thing here, my plane flash, right? And let's go to my plane flash. I got my objects, add it into the scene, or else we're giving me an error. And yeah, I'm gonna check it, but I shouldn't. I'm not removing my object ever. So, but it looks like it's never been added. So I'm going from 9. I'm going to a 9 thing here. So let's object1.alpha is 1, and then I add child my explosion, right? And then what I do is I change my plane flash alpha to 1. Let me go back to this event handler. Sorry, it's not this. It's my event handler. So in the case of my event handler, it's actually physically there because my event handler is happening here in my plane this time, right? So here's my event listener where this gets created, right? Plane flash on bind this. So I animated this where my plane flash is on, and then what I can do here is my animation ended is going to do this if my alpha for the plane is less than 1. So I can say something like if this dot alpha is not equal to 1, something else. Then if it's not equal to 1, like it's 0, then what I want to do is this on animation end. And if not, then what I want to say is that else that the game this dot plane flash dot go to and play, or just play. Maybe that's what I want to do. This dot plane flash play. So if it's not equal to 1, right? Then do this. Actually, it's going to always be equal to 0. Let's do it properly. So if this is equal to 0, so if my alpha of my plane is invisible, so if my plane is invisible, then I want to switch my alpha to 1 and my plane flash alpha to 0. I want to do. Otherwise, if my plane flash if my plane is 1, alpha is 1, plane flash plane. No. My plane is 1. Let's get rid of this here. What I want to do is, I want to do that play inside my collision manager. So instead of doing this, what I meant to do is play. Play. Oh, now I'm playing my thing again. So manager's game flash alpha is 1, playing this, and then that should do it. 2, 3. So yeah, but I don't see my my ship ever. I never see my plane flash. So let's just do this. Let's make it so that, like I said, my troubleshooting, guys, making this thing play. You know what? And another way to test this to make sure it works, okay, is to put it in the start scene. So I kind of did this for the first crew that came in. So where I kind of go to in my Visual Studio, what I can do is in my other scene, I can set up a temporary object that plays my plane flash continuously. So in my start scene, I can set up something called plane flash. I've never seen this thing, right? So I don't know if it's even going to work. Plane flash, which is of type objects.planeFlash, right? And then in my start method, let's add it in. So above my island and everything else, before it goes to main, I want to say that this dot underscore plane flash is equal to a new objects dot plane flash. And I want to update my plane flash, this dot underscore plain flash.update. And I want to add my plain flash to the scene after everything. So this dot underscore plain flash is what I want to add to the scene. This dot underscore add child. And plain flash. Okay, and that should make my plain flash appear briefly. 1, 2, 3. See that? And then when it's done, it looks like it's there. Okay. So let's make it appear in the middle of my screen so I can see it. So I'll put it at, it's actually working now. But it might be something weird. It might be something that I don't anticipate or I don't like. So plain flash in my start method, where I create it, I'm going to say that this dot underscore plain. I'm just testing to see if it can work. X is equal to 320, and this dot underscore plain flash dot y is equal to 100, and I should be able to see that thing here somewhere up here constantly. There it is. That's what my plane should look like, and it should play continuously forever. All right, because so my plain flash doesn't look bad. It's just not appearing in my scene. Okay. So we'll just undo those changes. Because we don't need plain flash. I know that it works. I mean, I'm just testing to see if I made a mistake somewhere, right, in my placing. So my placing, what happens is, let's go through this again. So it adds my plane. In start, it instantiates my plane object, and I make a reference to it. Here's my plane object right there, right? When my placing is added, I add my object right now, right? So I add my next object, which is my, I add child onto this object here, right? My plane. So let's just go through this. If I go to my plane object, so much for doing bullets. Maybe I'll keep, if I had more time, I would stay and do it, but these guys are chomping at the bit over here on the outside. So yeah, so if I go to my my plane, right, I have this piece, and this piece here, what it does is it turns on my, as soon as this plane flash is working, I'm waiting for it to end. So for now, let's just do one of these and turn this off. But I want to add it to the scene so I can see my plane flash. Let's see what happens there. So I should see my plane flashing at the same place as my plane. Start. So where is it? It's not being added. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to continue recording in another room. These guys are going to leave. Just remember for next week, because I want to finish this off for you guys. Please remember for next week what's going to happen. You have your exam coming up. I talked about a couple things that are really cool today. Animation with a coin and animation with an explosion. I'm going to finish this thing for you guys and make sure the plane flash works. I'm just going to keep recording in another room. I'm going to stop this recording and go back. Rename this thing to Plane Flash Part 1, and I'll do Plane Flash Part 2 because these guys are coming in. And then if I have time, I'll do bullets today, right? And I'll see if I can record that. Shouldn't take long, but then again, I always say that, right? So guys, otherwise, thank you so much. I saw some of your games. They're coming along. Remember that the alpha release, which was due today at midnight, has been extended till Monday at midnight. Okay, so I'll give you a couple extra days to fix things up. Any questions before we go? Guys, thanks so much, and see you next week. For your exam, please be prompt. I will start right away. No problem.